LSU finally got their first loss of the season, going down 24-19 to Ole Miss at Ole Miss. There's no shame in that. Ole Miss is a solid team. I will be straight up with you. I underestimated them. I looked at what they lost from defense and didn't think that LSU would go down, but they did. And by underrating Ole Miss, I'll also admit that I overrated LSU and how much that offense could improve from week to week. Game started kind of slow. Both teams filling each other out like a big boxing match. You're not too aggressive. Both offenses started kind of slow. One of them would stay in that same gear. One of them would pick up. First half, I think LSU went maybe 3 and out. Neither did Ole Miss score on their first possession. But Ole Miss ended up getting it going. They go up, and one of the key plays, I'm not going to do a play-by-play for this game because, for one, if you're watching this, you watch the game, you know what happened. But I will talk about a few things that kind of stood out in game-changing plays, game-changing players, especially Trinidad Chambliss. But on LSU's side of the ball, on LSU's offensive side of the ball, you saw a play early on that was kind of promising because it tells you that maybe LSU can stretch the field. And I'm talking about the 52-yard pass from Nussmeier to Xavier Thomas in the first quarter. So you're thinking, okay, maybe you can stretch the field with this quarterback and with this offense. But that one play said a lot because not only did it say that you can stretch the field, but that pass was so inaccurate, and Thomas was fortunate to be so open. Not just fortunate. I mean, he made the play. He got open. But he was so wide open, Nussmeier could afford to be inaccurate and make that pass. And that was kind of a sign of things to come for Nussmeier. You would have some missed opportunities. You did have some drops, but this was way less about drops and way more about just plain being ineffective at that position. And LSU tried their best to kind of play call around it, try to hide it, but you can hide a lot of stuff in football. You can't hide quarterback play. Back to the first half. You get that big pass. It ends up leading to a touchdown for Nick Anderson, as Lane Kiffin would say, maybe a fluke play. But anyway, shout out to Trader S. Green. That was a great job of him to tip that ball up and allow Nick Anderson to come down and catch it for the touchdown, which helps LSU stay in the game early because you were going to see that Ole Miss was going to figure some things out. If you watch Lane Kiffin's teams, you know you're not going to keep them completely shut down the whole game. It's just unrealistic. So, as you would expect, Ole Miss ended up figuring out some things. Can't say enough about Trinidad Chambliss. It seemed like even when they got behind the chains, even when the odds were against them, if you get 1st and 20 and you back up, okay, I'm going to play a little softer because it's 1st and 20. Well, he just sit back there and just pick you apart, especially over the middle. He was very decisive, very accurate. Same thing that we've seen from him in the past couple of games. What you hadn't seen from LSU was the busted coverages. That was kind of puzzling, but I guess when you're on the field so much, when you're getting doubled up in plays and possessions, you're going to have some mistakes. You're going to have more time to make mistakes. So Chambliss played a hell of a job for Ole Miss. Back to the LSU side. So you get some momentum, you get a touchdown, and you're driving again in the first half, and you throw just an inexplicable pick in the triple coverage. Guy was not open at any point, and you force that ball in there. So, look, I'm not going to bang on Nuss. Yeah, he's playing through injury, and yeah, he's been patient. He's done all the right things. But I will be honest, and I won't sugarcoat when you're getting play that's unacceptable. All right, if you're hurt and you can't make all the throws, fine. I mean, you can do what you can do physically. Mentally, you've been around too long to make a throw like that. You make that pass in the coverage, and you just can't excuse that. You got away with another one just 2 possessions later. You force another one in there that managed not to get picked off, but It's one thing if you don't have time, if you're getting bad protection. It's another thing if you see the guy and you have time and he's open, but you can't get it there because you're hurt. But to force a ball in the coverage, you just can't afford things like that. Cannot afford things like that. And he didn't make too many more bad decisions, fortunately, after that first half. But the margin of error is so slim when you're that inept offensively. This was just plain bad. I don't know how many ways you can say it. This was bad. And we talked about it after the Florida game. And, you know, you didn't want to harp too much on the negative because you did win the game, but you still have to recognize that that's an issue. If you don't recognize it, if you don't point it out, then how can you expect to meet the goals that you come into the season with? And it's not saying that the staff didn't recognize that, but from what I'm seeing, they're not doing enough to overcome it. All right, so you go down 17-7 going into the first half, at the end of the first half, and at this point, you haven't even tried to run the ball. And yeah, I know Caden Durham is hurt. I get it. Caden Durham is hurt. You still have Harlem Berry, so you go and recruit this 5-star guy, number one running back in the country. He hasn't fumbled the ball. He hasn't done anything that would lead you to believe that you can't afford to take a chance by putting him in there. But you're going to take a chance to put the game completely on Nussmeier's shoulders, who's shown that he can't make the throws nor the decisions. I don't get that. So you let Harlem Berry sit on the bench. Don't even try to run the ball in the first half. You go down 17-7. First half analysis, Nuss, he can't hit water out of a boat. He's also making bad decisions. LSU does not try to run at all. This offense looked hopeless in the first half, and they were honestly fortunate to be only down 10 points to an Ole Miss team that is no pushover at Ole Miss. Like, LSU was lucky to be in the game at that point. A few more things from the first half. This is the first time you saw this secondary kind of get challenged more. Ole Miss wasn't going to go at the lane too much. They weren't going to go at Minnesota the lane, but they went at Pickett and they went at Woodland. And to be fair to those guys, in a lot of those cases, the coverage wasn't even all that bad. They just couldn't get their head around, or they panicked and grabbed the guy when they were in position to make a play. Credit to P.J. Woodland. Later on, he made that play. He was in position. He got his head around. He tips the ball up and makes the interception. That was a huge play because LSU was – you kind of kept waiting for Ole Miss to just go ahead and blow the game open. To be honest, as the farther the game went on, you kept waiting on them to blow it open. We saw that Chambliss is no fluke, and I didn't think he was a fluke coming into the game, but after that first half, and you saw what he was able to do with his feet, with his legs, you saw that he was no look. What you saw against Tulane and Arkansas, that's who he really is, and he's gonna do that against anybody. Was kind of surprised that you didn't get more pressure up the middle on him, but either way, I'm giving him credit, and I'm not gonna be too negative about the LSU defense, because you can't just be on the field that long and be expected to beat the Baltimore Ravens and win the game on your own. It's just asking too much out of the defense. Second half, you started off early on. Blake Baker turned the pressure up, and they got Chambliss a little uncomfortable. You shut down some drives, and you saw and a sudden infusion of the run offensively. I don't know what took so long. Look, LSU averaged 2.6 yards per carry. So the first thing somebody's going to do is look at that and say, oh, they can't run the ball. It's the second year in a row. Why can't they run it? Well, you can't run it if you choose to run it once out of every 6 or 7 plays. You can't pick and choose your spots. The run game is a commitment. And you might look at it like, well, you can't afford to run on first down and not get any yards. Now it's 2nd and 8. Well, you can't afford to throw on every down, especially when you can't see it and you can't make the throws. So if you can't run the ball whatever you get passing, that's fool's gold because you can't sustain it. You can't win a game completely passing the ball. So you finally get Harlem Berry involved in that second half, and the crazy thing about it is when you do get him involved, you get instant results. You saw 3 straight plays where Berry got the ball. You got a run play. You had a swing pass to him in the flats, then you got another run play, and he gets a first down, and all of a sudden it looks like a different offense. All of a sudden, you're not putting everything on Nuts' shoulders and saying, "Here, we know you're hurt. Go win it for us." I don't understand that approach, which is what they did in the first half. So you finally get Barry in, you get some positive momentum offensively, but you still got to get stops, and the defense played better because they got more support. It's got to be a complementary game. Defense played better in the second half because the offense played better in the second half, and you were able to finally get some run going, and you had longer possessions. You didn't have these quick 3 and outs. I will say that I think sometimes Ole Miss kind of hurt themselves with penalties. Well, the whole game they hurt themselves with penalties, but especially on offense early downs, you get them a holding called in. They're suddenly 1st and 20 or 2nd and 20, something like that. And the only negative I'll say about the defense is when you get them in 1st and 20, don't sit back. Don't sit back and concede 10 yards to him because you know he's going to take it. Chambliss is going to take that every time. If you sit back on him and give him time, this is an accurate guy. Now, I understand that you have to be disciplined in how you rush him. You can't just send everybody straight up the field because he'll let him run by you and he'll take off running up the middle. But you still have to rush him. You can't give him all day because this is a legitimate quarterback. I don't care where he came from. This is a better quarterback right now than what you have on your side. This is somebody you have to focus. You have to game plan around, like you have to target him. And not like target where you get a penalty. You have to target, hey, this guy, we got to take him out of the game to where he can't hurt us. So backing up on 1st and 20 and playing soft coverage, you're just conceding 10 yards at the least. And now all of a sudden it's 2nd and 10. Things don't look so bad, especially when you can run the ball the way they did. Ole Miss ran the ball 42 times against LSU. It's 42 runs. I think it might have been 44 runs against LSU. LSU ran the ball 22 times. And that really, if you see a stat line like that, you know who won the game when you see something like that. And unless you're playing Army, you know who won the game. But yeah, that's the only negative I'll say about that defense. Late in the game, you had some good drives. I want to point out a few plays. I talked about the pick by P.J. Woodland. That was huge as far as keeping LSU in the game. The 4th down play to Kyle Parker. And look, got to give a lot of credit to Parker coming in, stepping up. He made some big plays when Anderson went out. Anderson is LSU's best receiver, and he's also LSU's most clutch receiver. So that was a big void when he went out. Kyle Parker came in and made some good plays. And that 4th down where he should have been stopped short of the line, that was huge. That was effort. That was awareness. That's a 2nd-year player that we're talking about to show that kind of awareness. That was one of the few positives for LSU. And later on, again, you want to talk about Harlem Berry. You come in, you finally give him the ball. You finally give him a chance. He takes off, runs for 10 yards down in the red zone. You get it to him again, and you run 5 yards for the touchdown run. Then you get to the 2-point conversion. And I'll talk more about the OC. Trying to be patient with, I guess, how I assess what he's doing. Last year, I'm like, okay, it's his first year as an offensive coordinator at this level. Let's see how things pan out. Things weren't ideal. You didn't have your O-line playing at their best. Blah, blah, blah. All right, it's the 2nd year now. And that 2-point conversion where it's slow developing, guys aren't sure what they're doing, You hand the ball off to Juwan Johnson, who is not a short yardage back by any means. First of all, the play itself was just doomed from the start. But then, no matter which it wasn't going to work no matter who you had running the ball. But to hand it to Juwan Johnson, who's a shiftier guy, a more versatile guy, receiving out of the backfield type guy, when Barry just ran it in there, I don't know what you were doing by that. End of the day, it didn't matter because you weren't going to get the ball back, but I didn't understand that 2-point conversion. Look, we're not going to do a play-by-play about the game. LSU lost.